Hello everyone, my name is Aristo Hadistopo. I am a senior member of IEEE. Now I am going to share how to write a quality manuscript for journal. It is based on disseminating research design essentials of effective publishing. It was written by Without Patrick, fellow of IEEE. He is teaching at University of Alberta, Canada, and Polish Academy of Sciences, Poland. He is my colleague. Thank you, Peter, for your permission. Let's go to discuss the type of journal. There are many types of journal. First, international journal, reputable international journal, peer-reviewed international journal, accredited national journal, and the last one is local journal. What is international journal? International journal is a journal that has many criteria. First, academic writing, which is published in scientific rules and ethics. Second, having ISSN. Third, written in United Nations languages like Arab, English, French, Russian, Spanish, and Chinese. Published in online version. Members of editorial board are experts in the fields from 4 countries. The authors whose papers that are published in an issue are not less than 4 countries. What is indexing institution? There are 3 kinds of institutions that are reputable according to Indonesian Minister of Education. First, as in knowledge or Thomson Reuters from USA. The second, Scopus or Elsevier from Netherlands. And the third is Microsoft Academic Search. And the other are lower indexing institutions. ProQuest, EBSCO, Central Blood, TOEG, Veridoc, Sherpa, Index Copernicus, and the last one is lowest is Google Scholar. Some countries have their own indexing system, like France has CNRS, Denmark with BFE, Brazil with Qualys, etc. Some journals had penalties if no plagiarism checking, fault in review process, sometimes reviewer has relation with author. Most of the authors from a country, the authors in one issue publication. Author can ask someone to be his or her reviewer. And what is predator journal? Predator journal is a journal that has no public plagiarism checking, tends on money making, without rigid peer review process, and without peer review, author has to pay publication fee. Author has to pay publication fee before paper has been accepted. What is National Journal? National Journal is a journal that has many criteria. 8 criteria are academic writing, which is published in scientific rules and ethics, having ISSN, written in Indonesian or English, local language or English, published in online version. Members of editorial board are experts in their fields from minimum 2 institutions. The authors whose papers are published in an issue are not less than 2 affiliations, published 11 fields of papers, published by publisher or scientific institution, professional association, scientific organization, or higher education and units. But the best journal is published by a professional association. Let's go to discuss the main topic, writing a quality manuscript. Manuscript is developed from research results to dissemination of research results. The important is why, how, and when. How and when, how and why and when the research to be knowledge dissemination. There are many knowledge disseminations like journal, conference proceedings, and into the report and others. First, we make preparation. First, we have to check originality, relevance, key objectives, nature of study, like fundamental, experimental, case study, etc. Possible summation. The scope of the journal, the scope of the manuscript should be matched with the scope of the journal. And we have to select the potential impact of the journal. Well, how the article constructed? That is article structure. There are two parts. The first part is content of title, author, abstract, and keywords. They are needed to be accurate and informative because it's important for effective indexing and searching. What about abstract? Abstract content of background, objective, method, and finding. And the second part contain main text that contain introduction, method, result, discussion, then acknowledgement, references, and supplementary. Each subject has distinct function. Let's compare about the manuscript for journal and for report. Abstract. Abstract can be in the journal manuscript or in report. Introduction. Introduction in journal should be longer than in report. And literature study in report should be spread it into 3 kind of part. In journal should be divided into introduction, method, and research and discussion. So that's why research and discussion in journal is longer than in report. And the next one is conclusion. Conclusion in report consists of conclusion and suggestion, but in journal, conclusion only without suggestion. And the references are the same. Next, we go to the title. A good title should contain the newest possible word that adequately describe the contents of paper. You must convey main finding of research, be specific, be concise, be complete, and attract to readers. But we mustn't use unnecessary jargon, use uncommon abbreviations, use ambiguous terms, use unnecessary detail, focus on part of content only. There are two kinds of title. The first one in the top, slow learning in multiplayer neural networks, is correlated with numerous inputs of diversified ranges, high level of noises, and non-stationary nature of data. There is a long word of title, but the below one, relationship between data pre-processing and learning in multi-layered neural network. That's okay. Author and affiliation. Be consistent with spelling, full versus short names, and full versus short addresses. And the second, be consistent with spelling, surnames, middle initial, use consistently or not at all. First name, in example, Mike or Michael, and affiliation. Abstract. A good abstract is precise and honest. Standalone entity uses no technical jargon, brief and specific, and cites no reference. The quality of abstract strongly impacts the editor decision, because the editor should read the abstract first, because he will read the whole manuscript. Keywords. Keywords are important for indexing because they enable your manuscript to be more easily identified and cited. How can we do? First, check the guide of authors. The authors for journal requirement. Keywords should be specific. Avoid uncommon abbreviations and general terms. How about introduction? Introduction provides the necessary background information to put your work into context. It should be clear from introduction. First, why the current work was performed, data aims and significance, and second, what has been done before. Next, what was done. It can be in brief terms. And the last one, was one achieved, and it can be in the brief terms. So, in introduction, you must consult the guide for authors for word limit, set the scene, outline the problem and hypothesis, ensure the literature cited is balanced, up to date and relevant, define any non-standard abbreviations and jargon, and you mustn't write an extensive review of fields. Cite this proportionally of your work college or work that supports your findings while ignoring contradictory studies or work by competitors. Describe methods, results, or conclusive other than outline what was done and achieved in the final paragraph. And last one, overused terms like novel, highly original, and for the first time. Mathematics. Avoid their formulas, explain them. Because sometimes reviewer can know about the formula mathematics. Explain all symbols before using them. Avoid misuse of symbols. Use standard notation. What about the graphic? Figures and tables are most effective way to present results. But you must remember, captions should be able to stand alone. So the figures and tables are understandable without the need to read the entire manuscript. The data represented should be easy to interpret. Colors should only be used when necessary. That's not to be overused. That is the sample of illustrator. Illustration should only be used to present essential data. The data is very crowded and we are confused. This is two kind of chart. The top is chart with many colors and below is table. The figure and table show the same information, but the table is more direct and clear. We should select the table. This figure is poor because the legend is not identified. Graph contains too much data. No trend is lines. This is better because legend is well defined, but there is still too much data and no trend lines. Well, this is the best because legend is clear, data is better organized, and trend lines are presented. What we make to the results? We must use figures and tables to summarize data. Show the results of statistical analysis. Compare light with light. And we don't duplicate data among tables, figures, or text. Use graphic to illustrate the data that can easily to be summarized with text. So, you must the main find research, it must be important. What will we do in the discussion? We must describe how the results relate to the study's aim and hypothesis, how the findings relate to those of other studies, all possible interpretation of your findings. And avoid, you must remember, making grand statements that are not supported by data. Example, this novel optimization method will enormously reduce the learning time. Then there's no data about it. Introducing new results of terms. In conclusion, we must do first, put your study into context. Describe how it represents an advance in the fields and suggest future experiments. Future research. But don't make repetition with other sections. Avoid being overly speculative. Overemphasize the impact of your study. In acknowledgement, we have to describe anyone who has helped with the study, including first, researchers who supplied materials or software, anyone who helped with the writing or English or offered critical comments about the content, anyone who provided technical help. These people are not to be altered, but we can only give acknowledgement to them. State where people have been acknowledged and ask their permission. Acknowledge source of funding, including any grant of reference numbers. Setting how we can cite the best one. This is two kinds of citing. First, this research implement research and development product that is called research and development R&D and adopted from Procter development model that is tested its effectiveness after creating a product, according to Sugiono, 2008, page 297. The second, this research implement research and development product that is called research and development R&D by Bock and Gall 2008, 2006, and is tested its effectiveness after creating a product. This is the better than this one because this one cited from the original reference. What will we do in the references? Check. Yes, we have to check spelling of author names, punctuation, number of authors to include before using at all, and reference style. We should remember avoid personal communication, unpublished submitted manuscript, but that's not yet accepted. Audited papers, citing articles published only in local language. You have checked the guide of authors for the correct form. Check the style format as required. It's not the editor's job, but it's not the author, but it's yours. There are many kinds of reference style. Harvard style, Harvard system, that's alphabetical by author. APA, American Psychological Association, that is alphabetical. Vancouver system, numbered in order or citation. IEEE system, that's the same, numbered in order or citation. Note, there are a number of author systems in use and variation for all systems. The important use reference management system, in example Mendeley, Suturo, Microsoft Word, etc. This is Harvard system, this is APA, and this is one cover with number, this is IEEE with number 2. And then what is supplementary material? Information related to and supportive of main text. But secondary importance is data, code, video data that can be accessed online. This must be available online when manuscript is published. Language, there are 3 C's principle. Good writing possesses the following 3 C's. First, clarity. 2, conciseness. Check the third, correctness or accuracy. The key is to be as brief and specific as possible without omitting essential details. Language editing surface. Your manuscript is precious, invest in specialist scientific and engineering editing surface are commercially available to polish the language in your manuscript prior to journal submission. I mean, before you submit your journal, the English language, the English writing, it must be better. Then layout. Check the guide for author, the number of pages, over, order and title section, figure and table section, and references. Keep line spacing, font, and font size that must be consistent. Use consistent heading style throughout and no more than 3 levels of heading. The length of the paper. First, consult the guide for author for word and graphic limits. And check available categories: full paper, brief paper, or communication. Letters or short communication have stricter limits on the length. For example, 3,000 words with no more than 5 illustrations. Abbreviation. Define non-standard abbreviation on first use in both the abstract and the main text. Second, check the guide for authors for a list of standard abbreviation that don't need defining. Don't abbreviate terms used only once or twice in the entire manuscript. Spell this out in full. That must be spelled out in full. Acronyms. Capitals not required in the definition unless a proper noun or start of a sentence. About revision and response to the reviewer. First, we must check finally. Revision before submission can prevent earlier rejection. The second, what can I do to ensure my paper is in the best possible shape prior to submission? There is two kind of thing that should remember by the author before submission. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 kind of check. Ask colleagues to take look and be critical. Second, check that everything meets the requirements set out in the guide of author. Again, check that the scope of the paper is appropriate for the selected journal. Change journal after, then submit inappropriately. If necessary, get a college of approved editing to improve the language and ensure that the manuscript adheres to the requirement. Then ensure that the literature cited is balanced and that the aims and purpose of the study and the significance of the results are clear. And the last one, use a spell checker. That is how discussion about writing and quality manuscript. How about if the manuscript has been reviewed and has been revised and submit. There is manuscript submission, the first submission, and then review by reviewer and director, and then the first decision. After the first decision, the author should revise the paper and submit the revision. Then the paper should be reviewed again. Then the second decision, or that can be the good decision, and then submit, review, revise, and then submit the final version. What can I work about in the post revise revision? Carefully study the reviewer's comment and prepare a detailed letter on response. Respond to all points, even if you disagree with the reviewer. Provide a polite, scientific, solid rebuttal, rather than ignore the comment. Second, provide page and line numbers when referring to revision made in the manuscript. The third, perform additional calculation, computation, or experiments if required. This usually serves to make the final paper stronger. This is the type of replying from the author. The reviewer is clearly ignorant of work. Thank you for your comment. However, we feel that the assumption in our model is supported by recent work by blah 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 blah. That's okay. That is very good answer to your reviewer, because reviewer is sometimes they don't like if we ignorant of our. So this is must do. State specifically what changes you have made to address the reviewer comments, mentioning the page and line numbers where changes have been made. But you should remember to avoid repeating the same response over and over. If a similar comment is made by multiple people, explain your position once and refer back to your earlier response in responses to other reviewer or editor. How can we do about the accepting and rejection? First, try to understand why the paper has been rejected. Second, evaluate honestly, will your paper meet the journal's requirements with the addition of more data or another journal or more appropriate. Don't resubmit elsewhere without significant revisions, addressing the reasons for rejection, and checking the new guide for authors. That's why don't take it personally. Take it with professionally. This is the sample of rejection from the editor. The reviewer, the first reviewer, they said we accept it, and the second reviewer reject, and the third reviewer we reject. What can we do if we have accept the rejection like this? Should we throw away? or we can revise. Let's take a look. In summary, image must be clear and more original. Avoid copying image from existing studies. Yes. Sometimes readers mostly understand research based on the abstract and conclusion, so the content must be succinctly discussed. Conclusion is not unique. It was taken from an already published paper. This is an plagiarism. This is the final decision. English language sources. The final decision said that it should be English language sources. So because there are many sources in Indonesian language. This is Indonesian language, this is Indonesian language, and this one Indonesian language. And this one, the reference is not clear. This one is not clear too. So you have to give the reference in English language. Suggested strategy for submitting elsewhere. After accepting rejection and revise, in your cover letter declare that the paper was rejected and name journal. Include the reference report and show how its comment has been addressed. Explain why you are submitting to the paper to the journal. Is there a more appropriate journal? So why should we do this? Because sometimes the reviewer is referred to a journal, and he is also reviewed for the other journal too. So sometimes an article can be meet the reviewer again and again. This is the evaluation report after the manuscript submitted to another journal. Of course, after it's reviewed. So what about ethical issues? Unethical behavior, there are multiple submission, redundant publication, plagiarism, data fabrication and falsification, improper use of human subject and animals in research, improper author contribution. That topic is accessed from IEEE and Elsevier. What kind of multiple submission? Multiple submission saves your time, but it's always for editors. The editorial process of your manuscript will be completely stopped if the duplicated submissions are discovered. You see, that's very dangerous for your manuscript if you make multiple submissions. Competing journals constantly exchange information on suspicious of papers. You should not send your manuscript to a second journal until you receive the final decision from the first journal. It must be remembered that it's not ethical. You don't do it. What's redundant publication? An author should not submit for consideration in other journal a previously published paper. First, published studies don't need to be repeated unless further information is required. Second, previous publication of an abstract during the proceeding of conferences may not prelude subsequent submission for publication, but full disclosure should be made at the time of submission. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is the appropriation of another person's ideas, process, results, or words without giving appropriate credit, including those obtained through confidential review of others, research proposal, and manuscript. Plagiarism is a series of offenses that go to the paper rejection, academic charges, and termination of employment. You should remember this because it's very dangerous to make plagiarism. It will seriously affect your scientific reputation. Don't do it. Unacceptable paraphrasing, even with correct citation, is considered as plagiarism. Authorship. What is authorship mean? What does it mean to be an author? An author is generally considered to be someone who has made substantive intellectual contribution to a published study. Remember, being an author comes with credit but also a responsibility. Second, decisions about who will be an author and the order of authors should be made before starting to wrap up the project. If the author are added after the review, after the paper is accepted, it's a wrong. Let's see what type of authorship. First author, the person who conduct or supervise the data collection, analysis, presentation, and interpretation of the results, and also puts together the paper for submission. Co-author makes intellectual distribution to the data analysis and contribute to data interpretation, reviews each paper draft, must be able to present the results, define the implication, and discuss the study limitation. And the third, co-author, excluding author who participate in this work. For scientific writers and gift author, including author who did not contribute to the work. The two kinds of author should be avoided. You should be a ghost author or scientific and writer and gift author. So, everyone, that's the discussion about writing a quality manuscript for journal. Nice to see you. Nice to discuss with you. Let's see again to the next topic. Thank you.